Hi, this is Zach with worn&wound. Today we'll be taking a look at the pretty new Lum Tec 300M-2. This is kind of a new diver for them, a kind of rugged tool diver, new for the 2013 line. It comes in two sizes and two colorways. This one, the 300M2, is 40 millimeters and obviously black PVD. Runs $895, and for that you're getting a really overbuilt tool diver watch with a sapphire crystal, sapphire bezel, two straps, and a Seiko NH35A automatic movement. So let's take a closer look now. The case of the 300M-2 is really solid and very well built. You know, it has kind of that really tough tool diver feel that you really want to have in a watch like this. Like I said, this is the 40 millimeter model, though really it kind of measures a little bit over 40 if you're measuring the bezel, though I suppose the case is 40 millimeters. Either way, it's actually on the smaller side for a contemporary tool diver, yet its bulkiness makes it, still gives it a substantially, large size. It's actually a really nicely proportioned watch. The lug-to-lug measurement here is about 48.75 millimeters, so fairly long. It's also pretty thick at 14.7 millimeters, 14.75 millimeters thick. As you can see, the case back comes back pretty far, and the bezel is also fairly tall. So once again, it's just this really kind of robust size watch. The lug width here is 22 millimeters. And looking at the design of the watch, it is there's nothing dainty about it. These really long, fat lugs that just give it a really solid feel, and also kind of, like I said, it's 40 millimeters, but it feels a little bit larger, and I think the length here really does that. The bezel here has a sapphire bezel insert, and it has, on the 40 millimeter model, just a really great action to it. It's very sharp click that lands right in place. This is a 60 click unidirectional bezel. It's really nice quality here. Just looking at other elements of the case, you have crown guards here around the crown at 3 o'clock. This crown measures about 6 by 4 millimeters, which is fairly small, but it doesn't stick out too far, and frankly you're not going to be adjusting anything too often on this. Looking kind of at the case back, if you can see it at all, it's just a very simple case back with a Lum Tec logo etched in and various information about the watch. As you see, this watch is 300 meters water resistance, which is plenty high. It's definitely a substantial amount. So this kind of overbuilt quality is to be expected. The finishing on the case is pretty nice. It's a black PVD. It is kind of satin brushed all around, except for these little lines on the lugs, which might be a bit hard to see in camera, but they're kind of a beveled edge here that runs from about there and kind of flares out, and there it's actually a polished black. So you just have a little bit of something more interesting that I think just is a nice detail. It kind of dresses it up a little and just makes the watch feel like a little more time and consideration's been spent on it. Overall, the case, the heft, everything about it is very impressive feeling. The dial of the 300M is simple but extremely bold and legible. It also kind of has I want to say almost like a futuristic, sporty kind of aesthetic to it. That it's kind of in a Lum Tec style. I want to say, Lum Tec definitely has this kind of extreme look to a lot of their watches with kind of their own unique way of designing markers and things like that. And this definitely is in the kind of family, aesthetic family that they go for. So looking at the dial, it has a totally matte black dial, and actually I'll start with the writing here. So you can see barely the Lum Tec MDV technology and then 300N automatic. Some of those are in dark red, some are in dark gray. It's actually a cool way to do it. It's really low visibility. Honestly, you can almost forget they're there when you're looking at the large numerals, which is really nice. So they don't distract at all. Then looking at this one main index here on the kind of lower dial. Obviously you have a very large 12 numeral, then you have large markers for the individual hours with these kind of pyramidal markers at 3, 6, and 9. Then there's this internal chapter ring here, which is actually stepped up quite a bit, like a couple, like maybe a millimeter, 2 millimeters higher, which gives the dial an interesting amount of depth. And then that also kind of lines up with where the second hand and minute hand are in terms of the height of the watch, which is really interesting. So the second hand is like almost touching that inner ring there, and then the hour hand is further back towards that hour index. I think that actually creates a really nice kind of dynamic that is sort of uncommon to see, and just makes the watch all the more interesting. Here at just past 4.5, you have a date window with white date on black on a black disc. date's nice to have, and it was nice that they did the white on black rather than the opposite, so it integrates in a little bit more nicely. Looking at the bezel here, I really like the bezel design. I think it actually has a nice kind of aesthetic contrast with the dial in that there is something sort of retro about the insert that they did here, having the circle at 060 and then just 15, 30, and 45 markers. Kind of reminds me of early divers such as the Blancpain 50 Fathom. So it just kind of brings that out, and I think it's a cool look that's a little surprising and works really nicely. And once again, this is a sapphire bezel insert, so highly scratch resistant, and it has a nice kind of sheen to it. Looking at the hands now, you have the hour and minute hand, obviously the Roman sword hands, and they did something interesting here where they kind of split to the loom, just makes it kind of different looking. Then you have this lollipop second hand where the circle and the tip there are red, and then the rest is just kind of a loomed stick. Once again, just a little different, kind of distinguishes the second hand apart. Like I said, the look of this is very kind of intense and extreme, and while that might not be for everyone, I think they executed it very well, and it works very well with the overall aesthetic of the watch. As the name of the brand describes, Lum Tec takes their glowing indices very seriously. They have something they call MDV technology, or maximum darkness visibility technology, and I think it really is just, they use the Superluminova lume, but they apply it very heavily and in multiple layers to get a really bright glow. One thing that makes this watch particularly interesting, the lume is fantastic. It really is bright and vibrant, whether you come in from a sunny day and you're suddenly in a hallway, you can see it, or if you charge it up at night. They use two-tone lume on this watch, which gives it a very unique look at night. So the 12 and these kind of pyramidal markers all glow bright green, as do the hands. The 60-minute mark on the bezel, and 15, 35, and 45. Then the rest glow a really cool kind of clean blue. I think it's very cool. Makes it even more kind of legible in the dark, as you just can more quickly orient where the hands are on the dial and everything. It's very cool. Just a quick note about the movement. Like I said, this features the Seiko NH35A automatic movement. It's a fairly robust movement. The watch is $895, and I usually see this in somewhat less expensive watches, but it is a very solid, robust movement. I'm not really sure why Lum Tec chooses these Miyota once and Seiko another time, but it is quality. So just about the movement, it has a frequency of 21,600 beats per hour, so you can see the second hand just take a little bit. With the crown unscrewed, in first position here, you can change the date by rolling the crown towards you. Obviously, that's changing the date there. Then pulling it out all the way, it has a hacking seconds, as you can see, and you can change the time that way. And then, all the way in, it is also hand windable. On the wrist, the 300M is really kind of a great watch, I think, in terms of sizing. Really used to oversized, bulky dive watches. It's kind of a more contemporary style. Usually they're at least 42 millimeters. And this one being a little bit smaller, I think is a little more compact feeling there, and actually a little more solid, and fits, kind of smaller wrist, mine being 7 inches, very well. And I think it would fit, larger wrists quite nicely too, because it's sized, to be big in some dimensions, small in others, and it just, has a lot of presence regardless. So yeah, you can see the lug to lug here, 48.75, still fits fairly well on the wrist here, and the overall size, it just fits nicely, but it has a lot, it's a very bold watch. It is still very tall at 14.75 millimeters, but you'd expect that, I think, from a kind of a robust dive watch. The watch itself on a bracelet with 4 linked removes is quite heavy still. It's 200 grams, so you really feel it. But, like I said, I think it's actually very wearable, and more so than a lot of other really overbuilt dive watches that I've experienced. So the watch comes with 2 different straps out of the box. This is the steel bracelet. It's a really, really nice bracelet with, I think, kind of an interesting design to it. So you can see it has a kind of a classic 5-link or a 3-link kind of design, but rather than being flat links here, they're all rounded. So from profile, if you can kind of see, they're all kind of oval shaped. And that, first of all, that gives it kind of almost like an interesting kind of scaled look, which I just kind of like. But I feel like it makes it actually a little bit more comfortable, as, they're kind of rounding away from your skin, so the bracelet isn't totally touching you at any time. Yeah, and I think, aesthetically it works really, really nice with the metal, obviously continuing it. But perhaps my favorite feature about the bracelet is actually this clasp. This is a really, really cool clasp and a really great value adder. So as you see, it's really big and bulky and has 2 sets of buttons here. These buttons clearly, like a typical butterfly, they open it up. Then these are for this very interesting diver extension. So you push these 2, and the bracelet will actually expand, and it expands in like kind of smaller increments. So they're kind of sprung open, but you can go small, bit, or you can go very kind of long. So what that does, I guess if you want to put this around a wetsuit, you can use that. But as far as comfort goes, one thing with metal bracelets, they're very rigid, obviously. So when you're wearing it in a day, if you get sweaty, if you get hot, they might become uncomfortable. And here you can just, do a micro adjustment and make it a lot more comfortable. So honestly, I'd love to see this on every bracelet because it really kind of ups the functionality and wearability of it. Yeah, so now let's take a look at the watch on the rubber strap that it comes with. The rubber strap option that it comes with, it's this kind of thick, kind of soft, natural rubber that is Lum Tec branded. I think for another option, it's really nice if the bracelet is perhaps a little too heavy for you. That this is a different option. Also, I guess if you're going to actually go into the water, you might want to try using the rubber strap instead. But also just as a value adder, it is good to have both straps, and it is a decent strap. It is quite comfortable. I think I prefer the bracelet just because of how nice that particular bracelet is, but this does work as well. So to wrap up, the Lum Tec 300M-2 is a really strong new offering from the brand, and I think perhaps one of the best options for a somewhat smaller tool diver on the market. At $895, it is certainly not cheap, but I think you're getting a very solid watch with a really nice bracelet. Like I said, I love the clasp on there. Sapphire bezels, sapphire crystal, and just really outstanding lume. So if the kind of like far out, bold design looks are something you're interested in, and you're looking for a somewhat smaller tool diver, I think this is a great option. It also comes in just a stainless steel version for those who are not into the PVD. I do happen to like the PVD on this watch, though. I think the black of the dial, the black of the bezel, all comes together to kind of give it a more kind of a fierce and aggressive look. So anyway, yeah, please read the full review on worn&wound.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Thank you.